Hi, my name is Dan Zak. I'm a reporter with the Washington Post. The Marshall Islands are about a 5-hour flight from Honolulu, a couple thousand miles southwest of Hawaii. People refer to them, including myself, as a small island nation. But if you look at the area of ocean that the islands are spread over, it's equivalent to the size of Mexico. I was there basically the first full week of March 2015, and March 1st is the anniversary of the largest U.S. nuclear test, the Castle Bravo test. And this was a test that was the largest nuclear weapons test ever conducted by the U.S., and it caused the contamination of several atolls of the Marshall Islands and involved the relocation of Marshallese citizens. It involved kind of these terrible health effects because of radioactive fallout. And so every year they celebrate or mark a Nuclear Victims Remembrance Day around March 1st, the anniversary of this test. So I was in Madro, the capital, for that anniversary. Historically, the United States used the Marshall Islands as a testing field for nuclear weapons. So we tested 67 nuclear weapons in the Marshall Islands from 1946 to 1958. If you take the explosive yield, the explosive power of all of those detonations, and you spread it out evenly over the 12 years of testing, the equivalent would be like setting off 1.5 Hiroshima bombs every day for 12 years. And I feel like that is the one fact that can really make people understand the amount of explosive power, the amount of radioactive fallout that we subjected this region of the world to. There was immediate fallout and there was long-term fallout. So to use the example of the Castle Bravo test, the biggest test, in short order after the explosion, you had like ashy snowflakes falling on a couple atolls, and it was just pulverized coral, very radioactive pulverized coral that was swept up in these explosions and drifted over hundreds of miles and fell like snow on the Marshallese. And they, of course, had no idea what this was and played in it and ate it, and it was some of the most poisonous stuff that man has ever created. And so you had horrific, radiation effects, internal, external, on the Marshallese. But then you had longer-term effects like cancer that developed, bone cancer, breast cancer, thyroid cancer. There was a whole generation of Marshallese that essentially do not have thyroids anymore because they had to be removed. As I was working on this book, the Marshall Islands, the Republic of the Marshall Islands, filed a lawsuit against the U.S. and the other nuclear powers, alleging noncompliance with the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. The lawsuit was filed in April 2014, and it was filed in local courts. It was also filed in the International Court of Justice. In the case of the U.S., the lawsuit was dismissed, and it was also not dismissed in the International Court, but the U.S. does not consider the International Court to have any jurisdiction. So over the years, the U.S. has made significant monetary reparations to the Marshallese. There have been trust funds that were set up for the atolls that were affected, and for the past nearly 30 years, the U.S. has contributed what are called sector grants that fund the operation of the Marshall Islands government and services to the tune of about $70 million a year on top of these trust funds. So the U.S. has paid a great deal of money to try and make things right. There was an independent nuclear claims tribunal that was set up that in 2001 ruled that the U.S. really owes the Marshallese people $2.3 billion in addition to all the money it's already given. The U.S. thinks that it has acquitted itself reasonably, that it has spent hundreds of millions of dollars already trying to make things right. So there is this kind of lingering feeling that this problem has not been resolved. The U.S. is obviously a very powerful and influential country, and everything we do has impacts in corners of the world that don't necessarily make the evening news or go viral. That's what I mean when I say, history is not just history. It leaves a legacy that continues to inform how people live in the Marshall Islands today.